Blood stained my hands like rust flaking off old metal. The scent of it was finally fading, but my wolf could still smell the muted tang of the dried blood, coppery and sweet. Well, as sweet as revenge can smell. 2 names had been burned in my memory for years, my own personal to-kill list. I'd killed number 2, and now I was imprisoned by number 1. I looked around me, barely able to focus on the dirty, putrid concrete walls that held me. Iron bars lined the front of the room, painted with vervain and coated with chunks of skin from the palms of my hands. Maybe I should have learned to let things go. Then I wouldn't be starving, lying on the cold ground in the basement dungeon of a serious, psychotic alpha. But who was I kidding? I could never forget what Dominic did to me. Killing an entire family along with their pack was not something one could ever forgive or forget. Only the addition of his blood on my hands would make my revenge even sweeter, more complete. And a double cheeseburger. I could go for that about right now. Hell, I'd go for a sip of water. I'd lost track of how many days it had been since I'd last eaten. Time was about impossible to keep track of down here. No light was allowed unless Dominic came to visit me, which he'd done several times. Sometimes he'd come to stare at me, but most times he'd yell and scream. On his last visit, he actually threw scraps of rotten meat at my head. I admit I ate some of it until I vomited. I'd managed to make it to the corner before it spewed back out, making my shrunken stomach clench in agony. Now it sat, puddled in the corner. At least it had hardened to the point it no longer stank anymore. The sound of the elevator creaked and groaned as it descended to the basement. As weak as I was, I managed to gather enough strength to slide to the back of the cell. That would be Dominic. He was the only one who used the elevator anymore. The door from the hallway opened, spilling bright light inside and making me flinch. Blinking my eyes, I held my shaking hand out, trying to capture a bit of the light's warmth, but it didn't quite reach my cell. And then Dominic stood before me, inches from the thick metal bars imprisoning me. Normally, he was the perfect image of refinement, just the way an alpha should look to a pack of powerful wolf shifters, but all that propriety had left him the moment he heard Silas had been killed. Now he was wild and feral, revealing the beast he kept hidden from the others.
I don't believe what you or the others say.
His disheveled hair fell further over his dark eyes.
Silas would never betray me.
He spoke as if we had been having a conversation moments before. He did this sometimes. But he did. I kept my voice soft, trying to calm the monster I could feel raging inside him, just roaring to be released. It also hurt to speak from going without water for so long. His hot, spirited eyes darted around my cell, as if trying to find a way inside. They were desperate and angry, and for the first time, I was glad that there were bars between us. Thank goodness Luke had taken the keys with him when he'd left me. Luke. A wave of warmth washed over me, and I clung to the feeling. I still remembered when he'd closed the door behind me, his expression raw and determined. I wished he was here.
You're a liar.
Dominic lunged at me, gripping the bars between us tightly, even when vervain began to burn his flesh.
The first chance I get, I will smash your brains in that pretty little skull of yours. I'll take the shards and shred your body until you're a pile of fragments no bigger than my pinky.
You think my skull is pretty? I forced a small smile, even as my hands trembled. I moved them behind my back. I couldn't let him see that I was afraid, which was becoming increasingly difficult. I gathered my courage, focusing on the never-ending rage that simmered just beneath the surface ever since Dominic killed my family.